Hi everyone, and welcome back for SIOP HyperDoc Module number 4. Today we'll be discussing strategies and interaction, and these are the last two SIOP components that you'll see in these screencasts. When we take a look at SIOP's 8 components, you've already seen 1 through 3 and 6 through 8. Today we'll be focusing on 4 and 5, strategies and interaction. Within strategies, teachers are to provide ample opportunities for students to use learning strategies and techniques in the classroom. It also means that scaffolding is consistently used and it is used strategically to assist students in understanding. This also includes using a variety of questions and tasks that promote higher order thinking. When we consider interaction, we're really looking for teachers to provide frequent opportunities and discussions between teachers and between students. We know that language develops socially, and that students who are learning a second language, who are learning in English, really need opportunities to discuss, apply, and interact to really acquire that language and practice its use in real contexts. This means that we need to use group configurations that support language and content objectives, as well as provide sufficient wait time and maybe even some concepts in their first language so that students can interact with the content, interact with the language, and begin to learn. When we say providing ample opportunities to use learning strategies, what we're really talking about is the purpose of SIOP. These strategies really help our instruction, and it's not just the strategies that we employ, it's how we teach students how to use them. What we want to do is help students access memory, make connections, and problem solve while they're doing all of that good metacognitive work in monitoring their own learning. But this means that not only do we need to use the learning strategies, but we have to teach the learning strategies and teach students when to use them as well. Unless we offer really explicit instruction on how and when to use learning strategies, students won't be able to apply that across different contexts. And we know that these strategies really improve student learning. It emphasizes autonomy and their control over their learning environment. It promotes that metacognitive reflection. And also, good language learners use task-appropriate and flexible strategies, just like we still do. Think about when you have to access new content or maybe read a piece of law or something that's a research paper, something that's really difficult content for us. We use learning strategies just like our students need to. We mark things up, we use graphic organizers, we look up vocabulary that we don't know. So students who are mentally active are better learners. We know that and we see it in our own tasks. So that's why we want our students to know how and when to use these things as well. When we take a look at strategies, there are really 3 underlying types of strategies that fall within that in the SIOP model. You have your metacognitive strategies, thinking about your thinking. These are things like self-quizzing or checks for understanding, monitoring yourself as you're reading and saying, did I really understand that? How many times do you read a sentence and then go, oh, I don't think I got that, and reread it again? That's a metacognitive strategy. Your cognitive strategies are really your active learning strategies. This is how you're accessing the content and processing it mentally. And within that, you have your questioning and higher order thinking, and also those scaffolds and supports. These are things like graphic organizers and really mind mapping to figure out how you're learning, and you're taking an active role in that. And then we have language strategies. These are your interactive learners. Students who rely on language strategies really need to talk it out. I myself use language strategies a lot. I'm a language person. So for me, I need to discuss a content, I need to talk it through with a partner or with a professor and really understand it that way. So within your room, you may have students that you prefer or use all of these different metacognitive, cognitive, and language strategies. You may have some that are really strong in one and prefer not to use the others. So this really comes back to getting to know your students and offering those supports. Within scaffolding, there are 2 types that we'll discuss today. Your verbal scaffolding, which are things that you say and do. For example, using contextual definitions as you speak, thinking aloud, paraphrasing. And there are also procedural scaffolds. This is that gradual release of control. I do, we do, you do independently, you do with feedback. This includes your one-on-one teaching, coaching, modeling, your small group interactions, heterogeneous grouping, and this really changes throughout the lesson. Now, when we talk about a variety of questions and tasks that promote higher order thinking, you'll actually see this depths of knowledge wheel later in the additional resources. But when we ask questions that promote critical thinking, students are applying their content in a different way. It's important to think of higher order questions prior to the lesson delivery, however, because it's hard to think of those higher order questions on your feet. That's when a tool like this DOK wheel can really come in handy as you're planning for SIOP instruction. Within interaction, we have 4 features that we already discussed: your opportunities for interaction, group configurations, wait time, and clarifying concepts in L1, or a child's native language. Really, the goal of all of those 4 features is that the teacher facilitates students to collaborate, share their ideas, and practice oral language and language learning in real contexts. This requires extensive opportunities for discussion and student involvement. It also requires us to draw from prior background or knowledge and students' level of understanding and even comfort. We can teach students how to use these types of interaction strategies to think outside the box and use that higher level thinking and therefore higher level language. We know that interaction increases the use of academic language and improves the quality of student talk. It lets students elaborate and rehearse what they know, and it really helps individualize instruction. If students can talk, write, whatever they need to do to participate, encourage them to take part in their education and their learning environment, and cultivate that positive social climate in your classroom. When we're considering how to build an interactive environment, think about the way you physically structure your space and plan your lessons. Giving students opportunities to interact in a lot of different ways will help reach those different types of learners that we discussed that are all in your classroom. Now, when we consider clarifying concepts in the first language, this can be really tricky. Often we recommend this for our newcomer students, but this can be as simple as finding a paired text on Reading A to Z or on the Public Library BookFlix site, or letting students use their word-to-word dictionary or even a visual dictionary with clarification in their L1. If students have some level of literacy in their first language, we know that they can access English learning better. They can transfer those skills from their L1 language into English. So we can capitalize on that, draw upon what students already know, and help them learn the new words for concepts in English. Let's take a look at the overview of what we just discussed. We talked about strategies and the opportunities for students to learn them, use them, and when to use them, and also the importance of using that higher order thinking to get higher order language and interaction with content. On the other side, the student side really, is interaction. We provide opportunities for students to talk and discuss. We use group configurations that facilitate that language use, and we provide wait time and opportunities for students to clarify concepts in their first language. Really, when we look at strategies on the left, this includes a lot of pre-planning, structuring your classroom, and what you do when you're teaching with students. Interaction is really your classroom environment. Have you put the structures in place so that students can talk to each other, look at each other, and collaborate regularly in ways that they can access the content? Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a big one. Go ahead and jump back into module number 4, and we will continue the discussion online collaboratively. Thank you so much. Have a good one.